This is your corner on Fifth. Good morning to you, Lydia. How are you on this Tuesday morning?
Good morning. I'm as grey as our weather today.
Oh no, sorry for you. The sun is shining here. It's very pleasant in the bay. Oh man,
Oh,
a
nice.
new lease
Great.
on life. So, well, we're tackling a very interesting subject this morning, which we're not even going to scratch the surface on, but we are looking at how to assess the transformation level of a person just by our interacting with them, how they respond, what they say, what they do, how they handle. Because we are constantly given to checking each other out, isn't it? You meet your friend, you check her out in the first 5 seconds. Quickly. Women look at different things than men do, right? Um, Very interesting when we check each other out because of the gender angles we come from. But let's talk this morning through number 7. Just give a sort of broad overview of conflict resolution because there's so much here that has been written on what causes conflict and how you resolve conflict. So I don't want to take a traditional line. I don't want to take the party line. I want us to take a very different line. But let's just hear from you first of all. Conflict in your mind. What is conflict? What causes it? Where does it show up? And why?
um, Very quickly and easily, I'm in the midst of, don't know why I decided to do this. Well, I did. I'm busy organizing our community get together for the kids on Friday late afternoon. And I'm realizing very quickly we had a moment at the pool this past Sunday, and there was an incident that came up, and it's just amazing. Conflict happens very quickly between people just by, I want to say, almost existing, by being at its very core different in every respect. Someone presented something, and that already caused, people drawing sides and what sides they were on, and there was a conflict. There's a difference in viewpoints and decision making and where they should go and how they should be, and so they're already, for me, that's, yeah, individuals, there will be conflict because there is this difference of opinion and difference of view, and yeah.
And it's amazing how things get out of control, right? It first starts up as a difficulty, and then it sort of steamrolls into a problem, and then it goes into a conflict, and then there's
Mm.
warfare. Uh, but the angle I want us to take on this issue is looking at it through one of two eyes. Game A, Game B. You may be familiar with the language. It comes out of Jordan Hall stuff and James Carr's Carse, and a couple of other guys. Others talk about credo versus religio, as in religion, religio, religio. The word religion has to do with religamenting. Origins of the word are a bit tough to wade through, but it means to religament. Because remember, you've heard it in the believing community. We're quick to say Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. Well, it's actually both. Because the sacred is what religaments. The sacred is what pulls things together. Because you need something bigger to pull your life together. So when you talk about game A, you talk about war, right? Because what gives rise to war? Conflict, right? Difference of a way of seeing a thing and immediately going into fight mode. We talk about fight, flight, flirt, fawn. At least 5, 6 of them. The list keeps growing. Freeze. You can't leave a freezing out. Our limbic system is wired to respond in a particular way defensively. And so we've got game A, which is sort of your war model. And some of us are like that, Lids. We don't bring water to a fire. We bring petrol, right? And if you know anything about petrol, it's highly flammable. Don't even try turpentine. I mean, we have a family friend who got burnt because he threw turpentine on a fire as a kid. And of course, it's so highly flammable, the flame went right into the bottle out of which he was throwing it, and he scorched himself. He's in hospital for months. And then you have game B. And the way I want to describe game B is by just one word. It's poetry. Now, poetry is very different than war, right? Game A, game B. Game A is win-lose. Game B is win-win. We normally talk about, if we're a little smart and we read a little more, we talk about the Chinese contract. What's the Chinese contract? Well, people come out win-win. Each one wins. Game A is you win, I lose. I win, you lose. It's like the game we play. Heads I win, tails you lose. Well, in both cases, you you won't win. First time somebody did that to me, and as a kid, I thought, but I'm not winning here. Well, you can't win even if you tried. If heads I win and tails you lose, you'll never win. I'll keep winning. So look at conflict a bit from this angle, this game B angle, this religio angle, because the creedal type of thinking and living is, always thinking oppositionally. Life is just purely about right and wrong. No shades of gray. No preferences. No place for the taste buds. It's just black and white, right? And then we go into relationships with that kind of thinking, and watch what happens in relationships. They just continually explode. So talk to me about what I've just rapped about. What's hooking in your head here as we look at game A, game B?
Yeah, it's amazing how, I always think, oh, I'm not prepared, or I don't have much to say, I don't have enough. And yet life gives you so much. So when you said about a credo versus religio, I mean, I'm experiencing it now. It's so the event on Friday, some would call it controversial. I want to call this game A and game B opportunity. And I had some conversations with mom. And Friday is Halloween. What some would say is the celebration of Halloween, and what all constitutes all of that. And the game A, where it comes to this black and white, is what does that stand for? And so people are divided as to what to do or not do. And it's amazing how this year for me has been about how you're putting this game B and how you're explaining it about religamenting, because there is gray area. And what is this about? How are we using opportunities that are presented in the context and culture and traditions that we find ourselves in? Right. We're either going to create, if you're in the game A mode, you have a left and a right, you have a right and a wrong, you have this, well, I'm definitely, and if you do that, you're a Satanist, or, you can, some of the conversations will go with that. And it's amazing how, as I'm navigating, there's a lot to navigate with my 2-year-old, and as I'm engaging with this community, there's a foundation I have, and I'm saying it's an opportunity. We have another opportunity, and I believe that's a game B. Because there's areas to navigate. How do I navigate this? What am I not standing for, and what am I standing for? And what am I creating as an opportunity? You talk about religamenting. I'm thinking even in sport, means to redo, to create. Isn't there something of an opportunity to connect, to reconnect, where there hasn't been, where there's been loss of connection, community, and doing this differently? I think I'm thinking, just based on what you're saying, game B gives you opportunity for that. Allows you to think, wait, let's think differently. without compromising on non-negotiables.
Well, some would immediately
Um,
rock up and say, "Oh, you're compromising," right? But you see, if you are ideologically captivated and you are possessed by a simulacrum, a pre-programmed script, then you will have no place for this opportunity, because they wouldn't even call it an opportunity. They would just call it
yeah.
satanic, right? And I remember in the
Mm,
States when we lived down in the Lone Star State, Americans would call it, especially in the assemblies, they would call it the Harvest Festival,
mm,
all right? And I mean, yeah, it would be pumpkins related, harvest, but it was a
mm,
wonderful alternative. It was a creative alternative. Now, somebody who's given to an ideology cannot think creative alternative. There is no such thing as creative alternative. I've struggled throughout my early years in my Christian life with thinking about creative alternatives, because I came out of such a strict background and there was no place for creativity and novelty. Zero. It's either black or white, dis reg of weg, right? And now watch how you are in a situation now where you have to navigate. Now you don't have a book that tells you turn left and turn right. The stars aren't even out. It's not dark enough for the
mm.
stars to guide you, to be able to follow the stars the way a sailor does. Now, some would be listening to this broadcast and think, oh, there we go into astrology. Listen to him. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about how sailors were guided by the stars. Even today, when technology fails, mariners would be guided, looking out for stars to guide them, heavenly bodies that will be a guide. So, isn't it amazing how our ideological possession shows in how we respond to a thing or to people, where we are at? Some aren't willing to give it the light of day. Others will say, oh, okay, let's hear what you have to say. Others will say, I couldn't care.
Yeah.
But at least it gives you a feel for where people are at and how to use opportunities. And we're not good at that. We
Mm.
ain't good at that. I
Can
think,
I say
yep.
that, Dad? Sorry, I'm just thinking of a particular individual, and I'm just thinking this individual is known to be, and I would say Christian, um, and 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 exactly what you're saying is how are we? You I want to think about how I want to say this. How are you living out what you say about who you believe and who you're following, but it slams the door of connecting? you
Well, that
know
is a very interesting
you're
thing. Yep.
excluding, and I
Yep.
understand there'll be an element of we're different, and as followers of the way, there is a way that is different. um I just think it's amazing. I think, and I as I'm navigating, because I really like that word, you don't know where the minefields are. So how do you know where to go? There is no script. There is no, I mean, parenthood already shows you there is no one way for anything. Your toddler, your child will show you. You cannot compare and you cannot follow a script. You're going to hurt them. You're going to hurt yourself. So, how could we possibly, as followers of the way, say, or as Christians, as some say they are grouped into, say there's a script for how to do things?
Well, I think a flat-footed follower of the way would say, yeah, the Bible is the script. But you see, there's already a misunderstanding right there. Um, what about those areas where the scriptures has not pontificated? That's where we need the wisdom of God. That's where we need the word of God to orient us. You see, book, chapter, and verse is for baby stage, but wisdom is for the mature. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 2, I can't speak to you as wise. I have to speak to you in 1 Corinthians 3 as babes, babies in Christ, infantile, neotenous. You're given to infancy. You can't understand how you don't know how to navigate inside of the darkness. You see, we view light and darkness as locations, two locations that you navigate from. I want to suggest it has to do with um, spaces you navigate inside of. You navigate inside of the darkness in terms of light. Now it's a whole thought processes a process that you need to go into on that one, and becomes a wonderful talking point. But one who's ideologically locked lives in a simulacrum of community. It's a copy of community. It's not real, right? It's not an original. Like you've often heard me say, you're born an original, don't die a copy. God is so creative and novel. He won't, in a million years, create another Lydia Martin. He won't create another Terry Martin. He won't have to, he doesn't reduplicate himself in that way. That's how unique life and living is. Now, you have to get your head around that one. So that when I come to conflict, conflict is to be resolved creatively, right? In the context of community, because community makes it a lot easier to resolve conflict. But when community is not there, conflict becomes real hard because people don't know each other. I don't know you. That's why I need a third party to come in and to mediate and arbitrate. But that person, in all likelihood, would be a high community individual. Isn't that interesting? Think of your negotiators. A guy who negotiates in a hostage situation is given to a high community skill because he understands how people's heads work and he works in sync with that. And he's not there to get to trick them, but he will get them to believe that what they're doing is unreal. Now you see where the discussion is going. But we're talking about conflict. And most of us will give 3 C's or 4 C's. These are the 4 C's you follow in conflict. And I'm suggesting that life is a lot more dynamic. You need to learn to navigate your way here. Because you're going to get to some people, you better put your helmet on Friday. You're going to get to some people who say, what are you doing here? What's this about? This is, and you can have an acidic reaction. So you have to be ready for that. Then you're going to have the very welcoming response. Oh my, isn't this sweet? There's a sweetie for you, or there's a this for you, or there's a that for you. And then you've got all the shades of gray in between the two extremes, right? And to learn how to navigate, it's a major learning curve, isn't it? And we catch out ourselves because we give the game away in terms of how we resolve conflict. Just get together and punch each other's lights out. That's generally our response, right? Game A. Game B, the poetry response. If you fall in love, do you punch each other's lights out on the first date? Well, some do. Oh, goodness me, that guy is going to wax so eloquent, you're going to think, where does he live? And you're going to be taken in by that. Right? Because poetry does that. Poetry goes beyond words. So if all we've done this morning is just punch a hole into the very traditional way we do conflict resolution, then so be it. Because life is very dynamic and it's constantly in a flow state. And boy, when I jump in, I better be ready for all kinds of weather conditions. So as a mommy, you've raised the example of your child. It's not a one size fits all. You can't put that kid through a cookie cutter. You're going to warp that child's ingenuity, right? And you're going to hurt, and so doing, you hurt yourself. So it would be a wonderful topic to continue to talk into, but boy, it's really an area where we get stretched. Some are natural conflict resolvers. Others have to learn it. Guys like me have had to learn that over the years, that you don't go in with a cannon, killing a canary with a cannonball. Have you ever tried doing that? Probably you and I are very similar in that way. We kill canaries with cannonballs and we blow holes into walls and it's just trying to shoot for the bird, But Well, what are some of your closing thoughts as we've just not even touched the surface here, but
Mm.
watching people's posture and how it gives away where they're at?
Yeah. I think it really also reveals to yourself. We can be so mindful of watching others and where they are at growth stages. It's a reminder very quickly in terms of how you respond to them. I'm just thinking for myself because I'm getting there's a theme of responses I am getting in this season. Let's really call it this
Mm,
window,
mm,
and really to be trusting the Lord. I'm saying, am I trusting Him for something here? Like you're saying, game B. What's I shared with a friend even just this morning, and I said, this is what my focus is. This is what I'm looking at. This
mm,
is what I want, and I have to remind myself now all the time when that anxiety comes, which is saying you know, what is the whole reason for this? And then that again is showing me where are you, who are you, what's
mm,
happening here,
mm. Yeah.
and it's again revealing your own growth stage and
Yeah,
where
where
there's
you
still
at?
room and where
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Because folk may say, well, you know where Lydia's at. Lydia's just a closed book. You can't get anything through to it. And we make the same deductions about other people, So
mm,
these are wonderful topics, and we're not meant to be exhaustive here. We are just here to touch it and say how we respond in these situations gives the game away. In the next episode, we're going to look at sloganeering and our sloganeering and cliches in speaking and thinking gives the game away of our growth stage. So, Lydia, thank you for your time. I think we want to leave people with a longing rather than a loathing to listen to us on a given morning. So, Liz, thanks for your time
thank
and
you.
just making the time to be chatting here.
Sure.
Goodbye for now. This is your corner on Fifth.